You're at a party. Someone walks up to you, smiles, shakes your hand, tells you their name, and 30 seconds later, it's completely gone. Vanished, like it never existed. And now you're nodding, smiling, desperately hoping they never ask you to introduce them to someone else. Sound familiar? Here's what most people think when this happens. They think it means they're careless, inattentive, maybe a little rude. But what if I told you that forgetting names almost immediately after hearing them isn't a flaw in your brain? It's actually your brain working exactly the way it was designed to? Let me explain what's really going on. When you meet someone new, your brain is doing an enormous amount of work in those first few seconds. It's scanning their face, reading their body language, processing their tone of voice, deciding whether they feel safe or threatening, familiar or foreign. Your brain is essentially running a full background check, and it's doing all of this unconsciously, automatically, and at incredible speed. The name? That's just one tiny piece of incoming information arriving in the middle of a storm. And your brain, being the ruthless efficiency machine that it is, quietly decides this can wait. Neuroscientists call this the next-in-line effect. When we're preparing to engage with someone, especially someone new, especially in a social situation where we feel even slightly nervous, our cognitive resources are so consumed by the act of being present that the name simply doesn't get encoded properly into memory. It doesn't even make it to long-term storage. It evaporates before it ever really lands. Think of it like this. Imagine your brain is a busy airport. Thoughts, emotions, impressions, and sensory details are all flights coming in at once. A name is like a small regional flight trying to land during rush hour. If there's no open runway, if your attention is already occupied, that flight just circles and eventually runs out of fuel. It never lands. And here's where it gets really interesting. Research shows that people who forget names easily often have incredibly strong face memory. They can recognize someone they met once, years ago, across a crowded room, because the brain was busy storing the experience of meeting that person, the emotion, the context, the visual, rather than the label attached to them. Your brain chose the human over the word. And honestly, that says something kind of beautiful about how you process the world. There's also something called attentional narrowing that plays a role here. Highly curious, creative, and empathetic people tend to get so absorbed in the feeling of a conversation, the ideas, the energy, the connection, that the name becomes almost irrelevant to them in the moment. It's not that they don't care, it's that they care about so much else that the name gets crowded out. So the next time you blank on someone's name and that familiar wave of embarrassment hits, pause. Your brain wasn't being lazy, it was busy. It was reading people, processing emotions, building impressions, doing the deep work of human connection. The name was just never the priority. And if you want to remember names better, the trick isn't to try harder. It's to create a single quiet moment of intention right when you hear it. Repeat it back. Use it once in the next sentence. Give it a runway to land. Because the brain doesn't need more effort. It just needs a little space. You're not bad with names. You're just deeply, fully present. And your brain has been quietly telling you that all along. If this made you see yourself a little differently, drop a comment below. I'd genuinely love to know if this resonated with you. And if you want more of this kind of content, you know what to do.